Welcome back to Very Much VMEArcana, because it's been a slight hiatus since the last episode of VMEArcana.
Just a quick little hiatus.
It's a brief little hiatus, somewhere between 2 and 3 years, whoever's counting.
No one.
2 or 3 years since our adventure into Pride Pines. Our one and only playtest so far. That lines a lot more closely with like the actual play podcast genre that I was trying to sort of sidestep to be like, oh, if we're even more niche than a pretty niche genre that I'm a big fan of, then maybe we'll have a chance at being seen. And people did see us. I'll say that much, you know? We hit triple digits on audio-wise, YouTube-wise. A few months later, pretty bad views. I gotta say, guys, you gotta really pump up the YouTube views. It's just
I really wasn't like pushing the advertising.
True. You shouldn't do this. Yeah, we're not expecting advertising here. Even though there is, I mean, I will say this: the storefront for like all the subclasses and mechanics in other games, we're gonna move away from D&D slowly. I will say that up top as like a bit of an update thing, because D&D is a little bit tougher to work with. Like the new standard reference document, it's pretty much like basically the game license to making the D&D stuff that I like to make. Is a little bit, underserving. Doesn't include like a big part of the 2024 edition of the game. There's a whole new edition of D&D. That's how long it's been since we've played in the show. I do like the new edition a lot. Great quality of books, fantastic art throughout. But there's a lot of, I don't know. There's like a tech industry kind of bubble happening within the D&D Dungeons and Dragons game specifically that makes people go into indie gaming. So we'll have a couple of indie games moving forward. Next one up is Pirates.
Yeah. I love Pirates.
Pirate.
Will be the first one-page game we do. But before that, I wanted to say that we are returning to Pride Pines with our wonderful gang of sleuths. Minus Eli. Eli's in higher education, so his character will also be in higher education because they're a bit of on the younger side, unlike all of us. I just turned 24 yesterday. Christ.
Almost 27.
You're a baby. You're a baby.
Don't be saying it like that, man.
You want uppies?
I guess I am technically Gen Z, which is tough. I didn't think I was an iPad kid, but then now that I finally got an iPad for like my last year of college, holy shit. Game changer. Having the little Apple Pencil to be like, I guess I can't tap on this, but I can tap on this a little bit quicker. I'll be able to write that off on my taxes if they're happening anymore. Actually, Oregon taxes seems okay. I got
Oregon isn't too bad.
Taxes back. Yeah,
that's
Oregon isn't too bad.
My parents were when they got an iPad. They were like, "Oh yeah,
this is a whole new world."
Yeah, we're gonna get so radicalized
because keyboards just aren't it. Is that crazy to say? Keyboards are always lacking. Like people always make fun of you for not like gaming on PC and stuff like that. But it's just like I'm not like filling out a tax document. Okay. I'm not making a job application. Okay, I want a controller, or I want a little Wii remote to waggle.
You're not
trying
doing
to swing around as Spider-Man.
The Microsoft Excel simulator.
Or actually use a Wii remote to solve a mystery, because like a lot of good Agatha Christie games were like clicking around the screen.
That's true. That's true.
It's like, oh, is that a clue? The one glowing item with like a little ring around it. You click on that.
The back in the day I Spy games were chef's kiss.
You're hitting on something there. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those kind of mystery games kind of went on the wayside, which is why we tried to bring back the mystery genre with Pride Pines.
Oh, yeah.
We tried to go improve. First off the bat, as we go to this revisit, let's set the scene of what it was like for me to convince you guys to play D&D. Back in the early negotiations. This was luckily I could fold it into a college project for the beginning of this podcast, a podcast production class, which was pretty nice. I was able to just sort of commit fully to sound design and all kinds of different library gathering and new equipment that the class kind of guided me to. But yeah, why would you guys play D&D with little old me?
Honestly, I think that you were the first person I ever played D&D with.
Yeah, same.
I think
Okay.
because
I didn't know any better. That's why.
yeah,
true.
because we were young and foolish.
Yeah.
No, I think that you were the first one who was like, "Hey, I want a DM, so like let's do it." And D&D was always something that was like interesting, but was like very out of reach. So it was like, okay.
Out of reach is a good way to put it, because I think about it obsessively, especially since I only really got into it in high school, so I only got to play like one game where I fudged a lot of the rules, and like we had to play in secret because like our old friend Becca, shout out. His dad was like, definitely like the more religious type of just like, D&D is probably evil and demonic in some nature. So we had to play it on the down low, even though like Becca's dad really loved like my inclusion groups and like in our theater program, and got me a really expensive gift one time. Maybe we should dish too much into this, but like a really expensive. Actually, this episode's coming out on May the 4th. I got a super expensive Star Wars book. It's just like, yo, check out this collectible. This is pretty sweet. Yeah, it's cool. You want it for your birthday? And I'm like, yeah.
I don't know what to say. Sure.
Thank you. I did also get a nice card that Becca like painted or drew, but yeah, you theater dads just love me. It's crazy. Of all the theater dads we know, they're all caricatures in their own right. Yeah, so yeah, obviously we've all grown up together in theater, so D&D was like,
the next step in the evolution.
Yeah.
Told to grace the stage.
When theater isn't nerdy enough, you
right.
gotta...
Well, and it's kind of nice when you have friends who have a theater background, because you're like, okay, I know that you're actually going to like commit to at least some level of role play. You're not just going to be sitting here fumbling through the events.
And it makes it a little easier for you to kind of like commit to it, because it's not as like you're not as like self-conscious when you're playing D&D with people that you've done a bunch of acting with anyway, so it's like...
Yeah, exactly. Like a couple days ago, I did have a D&D to like teach my younger brother, because my older brother plays a lot with his friend group. But my younger brother is like, we tried like the Rick and Morty pre-built box set, which didn't really... It was like an okay dungeon with like, okay art and things like that, but like there's like a weird layer where like you're the Rick and Morty characters playing Dungeons & Dragons, so that was kind of confusing to him. Like, honestly, with Dungeons & Dragons, like, the role-playing is always more difficult than, like, the tabletop rules. Even though the rules are pretty archaic and, like, only a freak like me really appreciates Dungeons & Dragons for the rules. Good Lord.
You just gotta read.
Yeah, you definitely gotta read, but also, like, you just have to be, like, a different person at a table, which is definitely, like, just so challenging for people to, like, practice and learn. I'd say more practice, Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, people, like, go off, like, online in accounts and things like that, seemingly just all the time, 24/7, but, like, actually, like, speaking, like, with other characters, interacting, That's why I thought, I think that's why it's probably my favorite medium in podcasting. Like, I always have a D&D podcast going at all times, pretty much. So I definitely loved to kind of build out a different kind of D&D show. With this one more focused on like pop culture, full anthologies, very limited run. Probably not one shots anymore, because we did play for 4 hours and then my computer kept crashing to get it down to 2 hour, 15 minutes for the first episode of Pride Pines. Yeah, which a lot happened in that session because I was a little bit nervous about running a mystery, because I'm not very good at mysteries of all my genres. I like superhero stuff. I like action. I like dice, and I cannot lie. But yeah, I definitely wanted to really tackle the mystery genre, because I've just been thinking about, at the time, I guess Riverdale is like the main thing. I thought like, a lot of like because we did a whole episode about like, how do you make unique characters with existing rules in D&D, because we're like going back and forth between our own sort of versions of characters and subclasses, and then what the game actually offers, but how can you describe it differently? And I thought like a teen setting is like,
And Riverdale has a D&D arc, doesn't it?
It
kind of does. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not that
and
I
it turns
would know.
out to actually be evil. Like, I think genuinely it's like
like in real life.
like in real life, as we
in
all
real
know.
life. Yeah. I mean, that town was evil, so that way they had to like split it off into like Shadow Vale or Shadow Vale, right? Dark
I don't
Vale
remember.
for like the
I
Otherworld
actually should
Riverdale.
know this. I think I
Stinkvale.
did. I watched, embarrassingly, I watched all but the last season of Riverdale. After like the second season, it was more of like a hate watch, but it just got so like devolved that it was
I
just
feel like I
hilarious.
did miss episodes, you know? I feel like there was a challenge of just like, oh, first and last episode of every season. So I did try that for the last few.
That must be so jarring.
It
For that
was, man.
show.
Like the escalation from like the first episode, even in season 1, the first episode to like, and then all of the plot points crashing together for like the last episode, which season 1 was pretty legit. I'll say that.
I enjoyed season 1. I felt like it was like a good, level-headed, but it's a CW show, so it has to go off the rails at some point.
Yeah, it has to go a really long time. Like the Archie comics, you know, too. Like the Archie comic books is like the showrunner also took over the comic books before Riverdale was put into fruition. So Archie in the comic books was like running for president. He got assassinated and died, went in around the underworld, was resurrected by Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Is this
Which was like a
actually
zombie
real?
for a little bit. And then it's just like, I mean, it's real in the sense that comic books only do crazy stuff for like 4 issues at a time. So it's not like a season of TV, but like there's like a handful of it was like, well, it was cool because it was like Life with Archie, where he like grew up and became a president. But then the second issue, the series changed to Afterlife with Archie. So that was like it was like a classic bait and switch. You know?
Okay.
But yeah, and then the crossovers with like the Predator. We talked about this, Jughead and the Time Police, where he has to do like a Spider-Verse of Jugheads that he has to, you know, work with. My favorite, Archie and the Punisher, where the Punisher is like has to go to Archie's prom to like take him down because he looks like a gangster he was hunting down. You know?
Oh
That's
my
the
god!
classic for
Yeah,
sure.
classic plot.
Yeah, and with the I mean, that's the thing that really pisses me off. It's like all the CW superhero shows couldn't cross over with Riverdale in any way. Like Sabrina with the Teenage Witch was like only in one cameo, like not even a whole episode.
I think so.
Even though those towns are right
Something
next to each other, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then I
Wasn't in
stopped
the
watching
budget.
Sabrina, even though I do like magic and witches and stuff, because it's like more about like literal sex demons. You're just like, quit running around with that sex demon boyfriend, and the boyfriend's like, oh, but you know, I gotta urge.
So
They're
anyway, this
calling
is
me
the
like a
direction
man.
for our campaign, is where I'm assuming we're going with this.
Yeah, I definitely
Okay.
wanted to elevate it a little, or elevate's not the right word because you can't elevate Riverdale, obviously. Escalate to like an actual kind of magic. I really love, you know, magic mythology interacting with like, you know, different socioeconomic concerns, like environmental change,
Sex demons.
rich sex demons, right? Rich dudes wanting to dump toxic chemicals into the town as a sort of backstory. And also some Oregon representation. In the Pacific Northwest, you got to
That's true.
have
That's true.
some creepy mysteries, you know. Shout out Alan Wake, shout out Twin Peaks, shout out
Goonies.
Goonies. I mean, that is a classic sort of mystery adventure where you got to just unravel the map as you go, you know. Yeah, and I definitely shout out to Maddie for sure, who really drove the mystery forward. As I had like 3 clues, but then had no idea to get you to a graveyard, which obviously I didn't set up at all. Like I had one line in the beginning, but then just like Maddie's like, oh, it seems like the factory. You've mentioned him a few times. You probably check out the factory. And I'm like,
Yeah, especially because me and Eli are
true.
too
Eli
dense when we're
did.
playing
No,
D&D.
Eli intentionally was a bit cheeky and totally
Mhm.
effed me. Because he said, like, I sort of had the character introduction of just like, you know, Holly Shiftwell. No, I'm kidding. What's Maddie? What was your character's name?
Holly Harmon.
Harmon. Yes, Holly Harmon. Tietze had to get like Eli in, which was Duncan Digby,
Couldn't tell you.
Duncan Saxby.
Something like that.
So yeah, he was supposed to be like a window into like the other side of school because like you guys were driven apart by like the high school divide in the town. But then he's just like, oh, I don't know. I've just been working a few days, which was definitely just like, oh God. So I had to just give Matt seeing the future for Nat 20s, just to like, hey, go to the school, you know, which you guys probably could have figured out on your own. I mean, that's a good thing about one shots and like working with you guys, you know, and also theater kids in general is that they definitely have like a drive to like go see different places, go to the stories. build on what was previously said.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I, as like somebody who likes telling stories and likes structuring plots, I'm like, okay, how can I keep this campaign on track? Like that's no matter what character I play, I can't play a chaotic character because everybody else who's playing with me is already going off the rails. So I have to play the straight man, otherwise it's
of
just
course.
a disaster.
I mean, I also like playing the straight man as well, ironically. But I definitely enjoy the railroad. I mean, the best part of every movie is like a train fight. People get on the train, they jump around. They're like, those constraints do make better character decisions, when you actually are on like a railroad that's like going in a specific direction, especially if that direction seems a little bit dangerous, like a Buster Keaton movie. You got to like, okay, there's something ahead, and the pace of it is that it's getting closer and closer until something has to change in the character for the situation to change. And I think the mystery in that, finding the railroad in a mystery is a lot trickier because you are supposed to come up with like the ending in mind and like what actually happened, but like you're supposed to like basically obscure the track ahead of you while you're building the train track, which is an interesting challenge that I got a little bit of. But obviously you guys helped out a lot with that because I had like a graveyard map set up for like the actual encounter. I'm just like, oh.
We got to go to a graveyard.
I mean, I guess it's not crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a thing to where a creature's main motivation was to like make a point by moving a graveyard dirt mound and tombstones at a time into this sort of factory floor.
Until you said that right now, I thought that was like fully intentional. Like the idea of like, oh, you're dumping your factory stuff into my land. I'm going to take my land into your factory. Like, don't tell anyone that wasn't intentional because that's kind of genius.
You can't spell that too.
Cut all this.
Get rid of all of it.
Dump the check. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing with D&D. A lot of the characters kind of embody you. Kind of like Jim Carrey in the Asshole on the Moon or whatever that movie's called. Where it's just like, oh, there's just a spirit that inhabits you. Yeah, all those clues, especially since it's good to have like just sort of thematically important locations. Kind of like players will want to go to locations that are interesting, so something interesting could happen. Like, I mean, there's plenty of like D&D courts and stuff like that where just like players are just like, hey, I'm going to stare at this thing for an entire session, make it do something, That's like very different to like going to a location. It's just like that sort of catches the ear. It's just like, oh, is there something that's going on here? And yeah, I just love like shuffling around things, encounters too. The encounters weren't, I mean, if I could, thank you for the praise of the graveyard, of course, but I will say that most of the encounters in this were not my best work, You got to admit. Like the first encounter, I definitely had more mechanics in mind of just like, I was pretty rigid about like, oh, these are monsters that get triggered by light until you have to hit them a little bit to get them to talk or get them back to normal. But of course, Maddie is a druid, so she had a lot of great spellcasting sort of intuition of just being like, oh, I can just restrain this guy and then strangle him. It's just like, well, I got to walk that back a little bit for like a talking. So I made him do saves like, I don't know. I like kept making up saves for him to do instead of doing at the top of the turn. I definitely feel like Maddie's at the brunt of like my DM sweats is definitely.
I was gonna say part of being a DM is like figuring out how to do the thing that you want to do, even though your players are kind of ruining what your plan was.
Yeah, I mean that tension and that resistance is like what makes those kind of actions more important. Well, very cool. Like I still got to do like my basketball scene. So.
Well, that's kind of similar, right? Me and Maddie just finished watching the Dimension 20 Fantasy High junior year, and
junior year.
Yeah, we got all the way to junior year. But right, like Brennan gives them that spell that's like gives them fire resistance and like a lava
fire
fight.
Immunity. Immunity is like
immunity
a lot.
Enough, right? So it's like, oh damn, I just accidentally kind of nullified this giant mechanic that I had like set up.
Yeah, environmental hazard too. Yeah, I'm definitely. Like, that's a sneak peek of the Duke, too. Is like, that fight definitely inspired, like, oh, player immunity maybe aren't the worst idea if they're that fun. That changed the battlefield a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it ended up being super fun to watch, and I assume super fun to play, so.
100%, yeah. Yeah,
Just
definitely. Like, I definitely want it
dunking
to be
someone in
like.
lava.
I mean, we're all at this podcast is trying to build to like my favorite episodes of just like the last stands of just like every single monster, just in a highly efficient battle. You know, I definitely did like the last boss fight too. That was definitely the one I put the most work into, rather than just introducing like, hey, here's a guy with a gun. How does a gun work in D&D? You know, I do like breaking the gun when it hits the floor, even though guns in D&D aren't as good as you think. You know, it's just like compared to a bow and arrow, it's like I guess in real life, like I never really get the difference between like a gun and a bow and arrow, other than speed. The speed is like the most important thing in like a battle. A lot of the time, it's like if you're the first in battle, you know, D&D kind of works like that. If you guys get to Crown of Candy, you'll see how important initiative is. So yeah, we'll talk about it then.
That's genuinely next on our list. So
yeah, ooh, very good. Yeah, I also love Never After, but that could be better in the fall season, of course.
Okay, we'll have to make a list. Let us know what time of year to watch.
Oh my God,
each one.
live tweet. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd love to guide you through that. Yeah. I mean, wintertime on Sleeping City is a lot of Christmas stuff. They got to save Santa Claus, you know.
I already started the one without that, so I'll pause for
That's
him.
totally fair. Yeah, going back and forth between people. Yeah, I try to watch Dimension 20 with my brother, but like lining that up. Like I can only line up one show with him, so I spend it on Invincible. But
yeah,
I mean,
that's a pretty good choice for it.
Getting people on Dimension 20 is huge.
If we weren't married, then there would be no way. But we're just like in the same house. We're like, well,
very
we got
true.
Nothing else to do.
We're both eating at the same time, so
exactly. It just
works.
Like, what are we gonna do? Talk to each other? Like,
gross.
Come on. Like we're only talking to each other because of a podcast. I mean, that's the risk I'm taking on with this podcast to you at home. I'm giving up my ability to rewatch Fantasy High for the 8th time to do this show. Yeah. I'm like falling behind on podcasts. I just caught up on Dungeons and Daddies today. That took forever. That pod's barely kept up with. Critical Role, impossible to keep up with. Yeah, but what's not impossible to keep up with is this show, because not too much happened in this one shot, you know. I try to keep it simple. I try to keep it, you know, classic 3-act structure. Like more or less, I don't know, 3 acts, like you're supposed to have things happen and things like that. Like I had a whole screenwriting class that's like, has like certain events happening by page, like page 10, this should be happening. This is where your character should be at page 30. You got to change what you set up in page 10. And then page 60, you have to decide whether to go back to if the characters were like at the beginning of the story, if they revert back or change for the better, stuff like that. So the 3-act structure is just like, hey, there's like a bit of a social encounter, a battle encounter, a bit more of like an environmental exploration, and then a final kind of encounter is what I like to build out. The final encounter was just a centaur, which is like the thing that I definitely want to avoid in future one-shots, is that like the kind of like level 1 to 4 range for the game is like the enemies you have to fight as you're learning the game is a little bit dull for me as a forever DM. Yeah, as a forever DM, I just need those better monsters. Like the Tyrannosaurus Rex isn't until like challenge level 8, which like also challenge ratings are like pretty weird in D&D. For those who don't know the game as well, it's like the DM has to decide, like there's like somewhat weird calculations with like, you know, how strong a creature is, how much health it does have. That's like very counter to like video game leveling and things like that, where it's like, oh, a party of 4 characters could do this, but if that party of characters has like a warlock with a spell that his DM shouldn't have given him, you know, that could really offset the counter a lot. Because the big moment of everyone did have their good initial rounds. I think Maddie did miss a few times because those are like imps and a centaur with like 4 imps that all like fed into his health pool, and like he could absorb for health later on. I do like having sort of flexible hit points because they do fudge hit points. I can admit that. I'm a fudger. Like we did play a little zombie one-shot a lot. And I'm like, oh my God, I put 80 enemies on the zombies on the board. I don't think 40 health for each of these zombies is good. Yeah. So I definitely like doubled or tripled your damage some of the time. Just to make sure things are ticking down.
I mean,
sometimes you gotta do it.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, this is like sort of, we did fall into like the right sort of rhythm with the game with like a party of 3. You have like your spellcasters, but then you have like Matt in the middle, you know, as a paladin with like a very aggressive AC. An AC, I should say. Matt was bragging about for a full 3 hours as we played, but then right at the last round of combat, like at the first few rounds, it's just like, oh, that doesn't hit my AC. It's 19. It's just like looking through it. It's just like, hey, Harrison, I got something to tell you. I think my AC is actually 18. You mention it 15 times throughout the episode. Like you cannot shut up about how high your armor is.
Wrong.
Because it's like heavy plate, you know. And it's just like I should have put up on that because like heavy armor plating is like a robot warforged feature, so you don't have to put on like a half plate or whatever it is because like heavy armor plate is there's a lot of rarities for armor in D&D, and so like there's like a flat like 18 for like the heaviest armor, usually for undexterous characters like paladins.
That they're just gonna be taking hits, not really getting out of the way.
Exactly. But yeah, you guys were. I mean, you actually were taking a lot of hits. I remember correctly. Like you were about to go down if we didn't bring on the creature right away, thanks to Eli's Thunderstep, which I got two things very confused about that warlock. First of all, Thunderstep, I put in instead of Thunder Wave in like our software we're using a thing called OrcPub, which is still good, but with the new addition to the game, I pretty much fully moved to D&D Beyond, even though it's like pretty corporate and like not as good as it used to be, a bit more glitches here and there, but man, it's just nice to get the pictures and get the drop down menus. They're just really nice,
Love a good drop
Shout out to dungeonmastersvault.com. That's what we used to use, but
yeah, that's where all the character info. I literally had to like go back and look up. I was like, what kind of druid am I? What did I pick? I couldn't remember, and I couldn't tell by the episode.
Oh, yeah. I guess we never fully stated. We did say Matt, because Matt was the homebrew class that I have beefed up since then. Big thing about the Oath of the Future Paladin at this point is that he does have hindsight rolls now.
Ooh.
So he starts the day with like divination rolls to roll a d20 and stuff. And I also beefed him up to that way he can temporarily get an upgrade from level 15, because level 15 takes too long. That's the toughest thing with the Paladin subclasses, is that I'm most excited about those. Because like it's a Daredevil subclass, it's sort of Cable, Future Warrior subclass is what Matt's going on, and then also a Jedi subclass, which turns out good. So I'll definitely release all those together on May the 4th.
Oh,
probably along with this podcast episode, and then start doing like I'll probably do solo episodes where I break down like the, Oh my gosh, Colton Byers just sent me a text message that unfortunately been working on Natalie's car.
Oh.
What emote? Is there like a muscle emote?
Like the flexed bicep or whatever it is.
Exactly. Okay, we got that down.
Nice.
Can't come on the podcast because I'm helping my fiance.
True. Working on the car, you know how it is.
He's going to be wearing like a dirty white shirt, and he's going to throw like a towel over his shoulder.
So yeah, sadly we've lost...
fucked up the engine real bad right there.
We have lost Eli to higher education, but Colton Byers is set to join us as a brand new character with a lot of history with the group. So we'll see how he gels with.
And like Maddie, he's stuck in lower education.
Exactly.
It's a joke that nobody's going to get.
The lowest education.
Nobody knows your personal lives. So
True, exactly.
They're teachers. They're teachers.
They let you talk shit on a podcast, right? The teachers union.
Oh,
you're wearing the shirt right now.
I'm wearing the shirt right now.
You're gonna be airing out a bunch of the district's dirty laundry on a D&D podcast.
Look, I'm at the point. I'm like, what are they gonna do? Fire me?
What are they gonna do? They need you.
They need me.
What can he say?
There's only like 4 teachers left.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's also the big picture. Like, if we did a full campaign, it would be teachers treasure troves for sure. Like, that would be that's the big Dimension 20 level campaign. Someday.
Maybe when we're all like 80 and retired and we actually have free time.
Yeah.
Very true. Let me tell you, free time's what I got. Free time's what I got right now. Free time should be somewhere around the corner. I don't know. I'm done with school.
I got my diploma. Half of our friend group is teachers, so
yeah. We used to get pretty crazy on weeknights. That I would say. We had a good the bar Friday run.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Back
just
when
like
we
a
were young and spry.
Indeed. God.
Back when we were young and crazy.
Because I don't know why people ask like Bar Fridays. It's like, oh, that's like a good, youth like tradition. But it's like, what if it's just like a quiet table somewhere Friday,
Tame Tuesday.
Tame Tuesday.
Kind of that, just hit up the park at night.
Go walk around downtown like the high schoolers. Yeah.
True. Running around playing like flashlight tag or something. I don't know. That was something I heard about. I never got invited to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Me neither.
Kind of like how the monster wasn't invited to Bright Pines.
Segue.
So the thought behind that is that, it's like a classic centaur creature, but I definitely love Fae folklore of just like a little skeleton, fleshy thing, just running around, clawing things. I thought having it be from the Feywild was like a good kind of different energy to have like a very sort of mystical influence on people, which is like a staple in the more supernatural stories. Is that like at sometimes they retcon it to be like, oh, they were like on a specific drug that like made them see ghosts or whatever. Shout out to you, Haunting in Venice. But they also kind of did like, oh, actually the ghost is real. Check this out. Which I also do respect a little bit more than like the Sherlock thing of just like, oh, actually the Hounds of Baskerville was just like a weird drug that like he had to put Watson on or something.
Oh yeah.
God, terrible show.
Sherlock.
Absolutely.
Don't whip out. Give us magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just do a little bit. Yeah, Dave Teacher does a little bit of like, oh, I don't know about that. Because like honestly, it happens too much to me, I think. But whenever like a mystery show ends with just like, oh, does the character see a little bit of a ghost at the end? I'm like, yeah, I'll let you have that one. I'll let you do. But yeah, just put a monster in. Put an actual monster, and not like like the town's 8th serial killer in like a deer mask.
Right. If you're gonna commit, you gotta commit.
Whatever the skull, the last. Well, I shouldn't say last serial killer. I think there's one more after that was literally Satan. But there's a couple of serial killers that have like a very sort of animal carcass motif that I kind of wanted to feed into. I was sweating a little bit in that final fight scene as well because Eli was like, hey, I'm going to stop this person from getting killed in this cutscene. And he's like, well, I got to make you frightened now. Because like, this is supposed to happen a little bit quicker. And if I don't, then I'm going to lose a lot of enemies on the field if this guy doesn't get eaten. Or sucked into the collective.
It's gotta get eaten.
So yeah, that cutscene stuff is tricky. It's tricky.
Definitely is. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
that's all I need. That's huge. Yeah, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the next installment. As we left off in the note, you guys told none of the authorities. You guys left before the kids, could process what happened, and you went off on your own directions. Even though there's a strange white van. That classic in
There's always a strange white man.
Yes, a very bald sort of FBI agent. But what kind of FBI, I wonder?
Ooh.
That will be happening in a week or two. Who knows?
Depending on the final boss of D&D scheduling conflicts.
Yes.
Getting everyone at the table.
Dare we finally commit to a Google Calendar? Probably not.
Oof. That's a big
Probably
step.
don't need to do all that. Yeah. But this next step should be a good one. It's going to be a very interesting 4-part adventure. I'll say that right now.
Ooh.
We're going to do a classic
4 parts.
Month-long kind of adventure in, you guessed it, 4 parts. Over the weeks, we'll do talkbacks after all of them. Or should we do talkbacks each one? Should we commit to that? Are they going to be interesting enough? Each session, who knows?
I can yap. That's what I do all day. Just make stuff up.
Tell me about
Say it out loud. Okay.
We're the yapping generation for sure. Thank you to Matthew Easdale. Thank you to Maddie Easdale for being my friends, being my pals.
Hey,
thank you for being
what
our
they
friend.
say. The friends you make in high school are always going to be there forever.
True.
And you're going to play D&D forever with them.
That's what the title card says. They were just friends forever and nothing of note happened in the world. Unremarkable times.
Literally
very
nothing
much
happened.
precedented. God, these times are so precedented as we march on into the return of the show. So thanks to everyone for listening. Check out the show on patreon.com. There'll be some free video podcasts aside from this one. I don't know. When I have like multiple people, I'm just going to do audio only because I like it more as part of the medium. But I'll be doing some solo podcasts, discovering the design of the actual homebrew itself. There'll also be more tabletop games on the Patreon too. We have one member, actually. I totally forgot. We have a Patreon member. Shout out to Jeffrey A.
Jeffrey who?
Jeffrey A.
You're a sick fuck for what you did on that island, Jeffrey.
That's my older brother, so we'll edit that. We'll edit that joke out.
No. Cut that.
Cut that. As we move on. So yeah, he'll give us some input on what we should do for a bonus episode where we make something. But yeah, if you like the show, keep listening to other episodes. Other episodes are probably better than this one, I'd say.
Probably.
Bold to say.
Yeah, I mean that's probably fair.
Right. Yeah. As we say at the end of every episode,
D&D is cool.
D&D is cool.